Hello world. First, welcome to our new page World Secrets. In this page, we will discuss a lot of secrets that was hidden to all of us, like underworld life, UFO, pyramids, extraterrestrial beings, mother hypothesis, the unknown danger and more. Yes, there's a hidden information and that's why you are watching now. Please subscribe to our page now, to receive notification for new uploads. The hollow Earth is a concept proposing that the planet Earth is entirely hollow or contains a substantial interior space. Notably suggested by Edmund Halley in the late 17th century, the notion was tentatively disproven by Pierre Bouguer in 1740, and definitively by Charles Hutton in his Sciae Alien experiment around 1774. It was still occasionally defended through the mid-19th century, notably by John Cleves Symmes Jr. and Jeremiah N. Reynolds. But by this time it was part of popular pseudoscience and no longer a scientifically viable hypothesis. The concept of a hollow Earth still recurs in folklore and as the premise for subterranean fiction, and a submergence of adventure fiction, Journey to the Center of the Earth, at the Earth's core. In ancient times, the concept of a subterranean land inside the Earth appeared in mythology, folklore and legends. The idea of subterranean realms seemed arguable, and became intertwined with the concept of places of origin or afterlife, such as the Greek underworld, the Nordic Svartalfheim, the Christian hell, and the Jewish Sheol, with details describing inner earth in Kabbalistic literature, such as the Zohar and Hesed Lavram. The idea of a subterranean realm is also mentioned in Tibetan Buddhist belief. 1-2, according to one story from Tibetan Buddhist tradition, there is an ancient city called Shambhala which is located inside the earth. According to the ancient Greeks, there were caverns under the surface which were entrances leading to the underworld, some of which were the caverns at Niran in Laconia, at Troezen in Argolis, at Aphia in Thesprotia, at Heraclea in Pontus, and in Ermione. In Thracian and Dacian legends, it is said that there are caverns occupied by an ancient god called Zalmoxis. In Mesopotamian religion there is a story of a man who, after traveling through the darkness of a tunnel in the mountain of Moshu, entered a subterranean garden. In Celtic mythology there is a legend of a cave called Cruachan, also known as Ireland's Gate to Hell, a mythical and ancient cave from which according to legend strange creatures would emerge and be seen on the surface of the earth. There are also stories of medieval knights and saints who went on pilgrimages to a cave located in Station Island, County Donegal in Ireland, where they made journeys inside the earth into a place of purgatory. In County Down, Northern Ireland there is a myth which says tunnels lead to the land of the subterranean Tuatha Danann, a group of people who are believed to have introduced Druidism to Ireland, and then went back underground. In Hindu mythology, the underworld is referred to as Patala. In the Bengali version of the Hindu epic Ramayana, it has been depicted how Rama and Lakshmana were taken by the king of the underworld Ahiravan, brother of the demon king Ravana. Later on they were rescued by Hanuman. The Angami Naga tribes of India claim that their ancestors emerged in ancient times from a subterranean land inside the earth. The Taino from Cuba believe their ancestors emerged in ancient times from two caves in a mountain underground. Natives of the Trobriand Islands believe that their ancestors had come from a subterranean land through a cavern hole called a bucala. Mexican folklore also tells of a cave in a mountain 5 miles south of Ojinaga, and that Mexico is possessed by devilish creatures who came from inside the earth. In the Middle Ages, an ancient German myth held that some mountains located between Eisenach and Jin Germany hold a portal to the inner earth. A Russian legend says the Samoyeds, an ancient Siberian tribe, traveled to a cavern city to live inside the earth. The Italian writer Dante describes a hollow earth in his well-known 14th century work Inferno, in which the fall of Lucifer from heaven caused an enormous funnel to appear in a previously solid and spherical earth, as well as an enormous mountain opposite it, Purgatory. Today, the prevailing hollow Earth theory states that the Earth is a hollow shell, with its inner surface being much like the outer surface where we live. It has oceans, mountain ranges, and clouds, and hovering at the very center of this hollow ball is a miniature sun that warms the inner surface residents. Slightly offset from the North Pole and the South Pole are holes that allow travel between the outer and inner worlds. The civilization that lives on the inner surface is more advanced than ours, and they fly in and out through the polar openings in flying saucers, which explains UFO sightings by the outer surface civilization. Only the government knows about the polar openings and the inner civilization, and they suppress this information, ostensibly to prevent other governments from finding out about it and claiming the territory. To most of us, this sounds like a pretty far-out concept, so many applications of various sciences prove it wrong. Nevertheless, even today, it has its supporters. Many books are available earnestly promoting the theory. Websites such as ourhollowEarth.com, HollowEarthNetwork.com, and HollowEarthTheory.com provide only a starting point for active communities who firmly believe this. Conspiracy mongering is a big part of most of today's Hollow Earth writings. Familiar assertions that the government is covering it up, the proverbial they don't want you to know about it, and that we should all wake up and see the truth. But this is the least interesting part of Hollow Earth theory, and only its most recently introduced aspect. There is a rich and surprising history behind how this all came to be, a journey that began with scientific inquiry, but then went through philosophy, the comfort of knowing the universe was small and comprehensible, and religious zealotry. Perhaps the greatest story from the annals of Hollow Earth theory was launched in 1897 by Ulysses Grant Morrow, a member of Teed's Koreshan Unity, and a fellow believer in the inside-out universe theory. Morrow had made numerous sightings at water level and verified the visibility of objects that should have been below the horizon, given a globe-shaped Earth, but he found that scientists dismissed his results because they could have been accounted for by simple atmospheric distortion, as is common at sea. Morrow contrived an experiment that he felt nobody could argue with, the construction of an absolutely straight reference line, 4 miles long, over water. If the inside-out theory was correct, Morrow's construction would be close to the water surface at its ends and high off the water at its middle. He went to work. What he ended up with was a set of 4 rectilineators, 12 foot long and 4 foot wide mahogany and brass rectangles, specially and carefully constructed by the Pullman Railroad Car Company. The rectilineators were shaped like the letter H, diagonally cross-braced with steel bars for rigidity. They were designed to bolt securely to one another with absolute precision, and extend a perfectly straight line. It wasn't practical to build 4 miles of rectilineators, so Morrow planned to start with one that was absolutely level, and then extend the line, leapfrogging each rectilineator from the back of the line to the front as each was secured in place. Each piece would be inverted when it was moved, to cancel out any possible asymmetries in the construction of each. If the Earth's surface were indeed curved, either concave or convex, the distance between the rectilineator and the mean water level would change slowly at first as the line extended, and the error would increase the further they went, as the curve grew steeper. The mean water level was determined using caisson along the route, at which tides were measured and corrected for. The first rectilineator was positioned on March 18, 1897, solidly held on 2 securely anchored standards, and exhaustively leveled using 2 calibrated levels and a plumb bob. Morrow's team proceeded slowly and deliberately, spending nearly 2 months to traverse the 4 miles. Data was carefully measured and recorded the whole way, by multiple independent teams, with every number double-checked and initialed. The results. Exactly as Morrow had expected, the data showed the Earth curving upward toward his rectilineators at a rate that consistent with a concave, hollow Earth with a radius of 4,050 miles, 6,519 kilometers. The Earth's actual radius is 3,963 miles, 6,378 kilometers. Morrow's measurement of the Earth's size was correct to 2.2% accuracy, but as a hollow, inside-out sphere on whose inner surface we live. This was a huge confirmation for the Koreshan Unity Foundation. Modern analysis of their published data shows no methodological errors, and their experimental design was sound. How, then, Can we account for their result? The answer lies in the construction of the rectilineators. One survives today, on display at the Koreshan State Historic Site in Lee County, Florida. Although the rectangles were diagonally braced with steel rods to keep them precisely square, a critical attachment is missing. The steel rods were not connected to one another where they intersect, nor were they connected to the main structural crossbar. The intersection was freely floating. If there had been a connection, each rectilineator would have indeed been a rigid rectangle. Instead, this intersection was free to move up and down, allowing the structure to relax into a slight trapezoid. If supported by one end only, as each necessarily was when being bolted to its neighbor, it sagged, probably not enough to notice by eyeballing. Morrow assumed that inverting each segment each time it was reused would cancel out any irregularities. But this design failure meant that each section sagged downward regardless of which way it was oriented. As the Earth's surface curved downward away from Morrow's line, the line sagged downward twice as far, creating the illusion that the Earth was curving upward toward the line. That it happened to sag just enough to give an exactly opposite radius for the Earth appears to be just a coincidence. The inside-out universe as a form of religious mysticism continued in Nazi Germany under the leadership of Luftwaffe pilot Peter Binder, who became head of the religious order, and whose work was continued by Karl Neupert, author of Geokosmos. A whole host of German authors continued this theme throughout the 1930s and 1940s. But it was American John Sims who was the earliest successful promoter of the model most popular today, that the Earth and universe are as we observe but that there is also a civilization living on the inner side of the Earth's crust. Sims was actually close to getting the American government to sponsor an expedition to find the North Polar opening, but when President Andrew Jackson took office in 1829, the plan died. And while the inside-out universe theory has withered away, the inner and outer world model has comparatively flourished. Gone are the colorations of early scientific inquiry and religious mysticism, and in their place is simple conspiracy mongering. Recent authors, such as Raymond Bernard and The Hollow Earth, the greatest discovery in history, claim that many of the great early polar explorers were actually on secret missions to discover the polar openings and contact the inner surface civilization. South African author Jan Lomprecht suggests that all the rocky planets in the solar system are constructed this way. Some of his evidence of a secret polar opening includes the fact that animals migrate seasonally, and where else would they be going, and the fact that early maps of the northern regions would be changed over the centuries, consistent with official cover-ups.